I'm Emily, 32 years old, and recently promoted to Senior Financial Analyst at Morrison Investment Group. After years of 60-hour weeks, I finally got recognition and a $12,800 bonus. My family has always taken advantage of my success. But when Mom invited me to a small family dinner to celebrate, I felt hopeful. Maybe they finally appreciated my hard work. Boy, was I wrong. If you're watching this, drop a comment telling me where you're from and hit subscribe to follow my journey of standing up for myself. Growing up in the Henderson household meant understanding financial instability from an early age. My parents, Diana and Frank, viewed money as something that simply appeared when needed and disappeared just as quickly. By age 12, I was already balancing their checkbook and suggesting budget cuts when bills piled up. They'd laugh and call me their little accountant, but the stress of watching them bounce checks and dodge creditor calls left permanent marks on my psyche. While other teenagers saved babysitting money for concert tickets or new clothes, I stashed mine in a lockbox, hidden beneath my bed, not for something fun or frivolous, but because I knew eventually Dad would need gas money, or Mom would need to borrow for the electric bill. The first time they took my savings without asking was when I was 15. I'd saved $300 for a school trip, only to find my box empty the night before the permission slip was due. Mom had used it for a family emergency, which turned out to be a down payment on a living room set they couldn't afford. Family helps family became their mantra whenever money exchanged hands. The problem was the help only flowed in one direction. College was my escape. I worked multiple jobs to put myself through a finance degree, refused their offers to help, managed my scholarship money, and graduated with honors and minimal debt. The entry-level position at Morrison wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. My tiny apartment, 20 minutes from my parents' home, became my sanctuary. For 6 years, I poured everything into my career. While friends traveled or bought homes, I worked weekends and holidays, volunteered for every difficult project, and slowly climbed the corporate ladder. The promotion to Senior Financial Analyst came after I saved a major client millions by spotting an overlooked tax liability. My boss, Stephanie Wilson, praised my attention to detail and presented me with the news of the bonus during our quarterly review. "You've earned every penny of this, Emily," she said, sliding the paperwork across her desk. "I'm proud of how far you've come." That validation meant everything. The $12,800 would finally give me enough for a down payment on a modest condo I'd been eyeing. After years of renting, I could own something real, something permanent. Of course, word of my promotion traveled quickly through the family grapevine. Suddenly, relatives who rarely checked in were sending congratulatory texts. My sister Olivia, 3 years younger and recently married to Thomas, called to chat for the first time in months. Mom said, "You're rolling in it now." She laughed. "Perfect timing too, since we just found out we're expecting." I was genuinely happy for her. Olivia had always wanted children, and unlike me, she'd maintained closer family ties. Still, I noticed nobody asked about my plans for the bonus, or what the promotion actually meant for my career. The past year had been one of personal growth as well. My therapist, Dr. Lynn Marshall, had been helping me establish healthier boundaries with my family. I'd started saying no to random requests for loans and had stopped showing up with groceries every time my mother hinted the pantry was bare. The results had been mixed. Mom's passive-aggressive comments increased, particularly her comparisons between me and family-oriented Olivia. "Not everyone can be blessed with your financial success," she'd say during our weekly calls. "Some of us value family connections over bank accounts." The irony that she only seemed interested in my connection when it benefited her financially wasn't lost on me. So when Mom called about this small family dinner to celebrate my promotion, I was cautiously optimistic. Perhaps my boundary setting was finally having an impact. Maybe they were genuinely proud of my accomplishment. "Just immediate family," Mom assured me. "Me, your dad, Olivia, and Thomas. Maybe your Aunt Patty since she's in town. Nothing fancy, just our way of saying we're proud of you." I decided to give them another chance. Family relationships are complicated, and despite everything, I loved them. I bought a modest bottle of champagne and a small gift for Olivia's baby announcement. I even splurged on a new dress, wanting to look the part of the successful professional they could be proud of. As I drove to their suburban home that Saturday evening, I allowed myself to feel hopeful. Maybe this dinner would mark a turning point in our relationship. Maybe we could finally relate as adults with mutual respect and understanding. Maybe this time would be different. The first sign something was off appeared as I turned onto my parents' street. Cars lined both sides of the normally quiet suburban road, forcing me to park nearly a block away. I checked the address text from Mom to confirm I had the right day and time, Saturday, 6:30, their house. Walking toward the colonial-style home where I'd grown up, the knot in my stomach tightened with each step. Music drifted from the backyard, along with the distinctive hum of dozens of conversations overlapping. When I reached the driveway, I counted 7 unfamiliar vehicles crammed into the space designed for 3. The garage door was open, revealing tables stacked with gift-wrapped packages tied with blue and pink ribbons. Mom greeted me at the front door with unusual enthusiasm. Her cheeks flushed pink, either from excitement or the wine glass clutched in her manicured hand. "Emily, finally, everyone's been asking when you'd arrive." She pulled me into a perfumed hug, something she rarely did since I'd established physical boundaries the previous Christmas. "Everyone?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I thought this was just immediate family." "Oh, don't be such a stick in the mud." She linked her arm through mine and guided me toward the back of the house. "It's a celebration." When she opened the patio doors, the scene that greeted me stole my breath. The backyard had been transformed into an elaborate party venue. White folding chairs arranged in neat rows faced a decorated arch. Tables draped in pale yellow cloths held elegant flower arrangements, tiered serving platters, and a professional-looking dessert station. A banner stretched between 2 trees read, "Welcome, baby Emily," in glittering script. I froze, trying to process what I was seeing. People filled every corner of the space. Some familiar faces, others complete strangers. My father's golf buddies clustered near a makeshift bar. Mom's church friends cooed over something at a central table. Distant cousins I hadn't seen since childhood milled about with plates of catered food. "What is this?" I managed to ask as my mother beamed beside me. "Surprise! It's Olivia's baby shower. Isn't it wonderful? She's naming the baby after you. Little Emily will carry on the family name." The pieces clicked into horrible place. This wasn't a dinner celebrating my promotion. It was my sister's baby shower featuring my name, but certainly not honoring me or my achievement. "I count 81 guests," Mom continued, waving at someone across the yard. Everyone wanted to celebrate once they heard the news. My sister spotted me then, her pregnant belly draped in a flowing maternity dress. As she waddled over, she looked radiant, genuinely happy, and completely oblivious to my growing distress. "Emily, you made it!" Olivia embraced me awkwardly, her stomach creating distance between us. "Isn't this amazing? Mom and Dad put everything together. I had no idea it would be this elaborate." I forced a smile, not wanting to ruin her moment, despite the sick feeling spreading through my chest. "It's certainly unexpected." While Olivia chatted about the decorations, I scanned the yard, mentally calculating costs. The catering appeared to be from Giovanni's, an upscale Italian restaurant where entrees started at $40 per person. The flowers looked like professional arrangements, each centerpiece worth at least $100. A photographer circulated through the crowd, capturing candid moments with equipment I recognized as top of the line. "Come see the gift table." Olivia tugged my arm, pulling me toward a mountain of presents. People have been so generous. As we crossed the yard, guests stopped us to congratulate Olivia and ask about my contribution to the event. Confusion must have shown on my face because an elderly great-aunt patted my arm and said, "No need to be modest, dear. Your mother told us all how you insisted on funding this beautiful celebration." Before I could respond, my mother materialized beside us, skillfully redirecting the conversation. After the third similar interaction, I pulled her aside near the house. "What exactly have you been telling people?" I kept my voice low, conscious of nearby guests. Mom waved dismissively. "Just that you wanted to do something special for your sister. No big deal." But I didn't. I didn't even know about this party. Her smile remained fixed, but her eyes hardened slightly. Well, you would have if you visited more often. Anyway, we needed to access your old joint account for the deposits. Most vendors wanted payment up front. The room seemed to tilt slightly. What old joint account? The one we set up when you were in college. You never closed it, and we were listed as authorized users. Frank handled all the transactions, 15 separate payments for everything you see here. She gestured proudly at the elaborate setup. We spent your bonus on family joy. Isn't that better than whatever boring thing you were saving for? The casual way she admitted to taking my money without permission, the $2,800 I'd earned through years of sacrifice, left me speechless. I fought to keep my expression neutral as guests milled around us. You took my entire bonus without asking. Borrowed, she corrected, though we both knew that was a lie. Family helps family, and look how happy everyone is. Olivia deserves the special day. And you can always earn more money. I surveyed the scene again, this time noting specific expenses. The live musician in the corner playing soft classical music, the custom-printed napkins with baby Emily in silver foil, the professional-looking photo backdrop where guests posed with props, the bartender mixing signature drinks named after family members. I see, I said quietly. Noted. Mom mistook my calm for acceptance and squeezed my arm. That's my practical girl. Now come mingle. Everyone wants to tell you how generous you are. For the next hour, I moved through the crowd in a daze, accepting compliments for my generosity while mentally documenting everything my stolen money had purchased. The party. Favors alone, personalized silver photo frames for all 81 guests, must have cost thousands. The tiered cake from Bellini's Bakery, known as the most expensive in the city, probably set them back hundreds more. My brother-in-law Thomas caught my eye across the yard and had the decency to look uncomfortable. At least someone recognized the wrongness of the situation, but he quickly looked away when Olivia called him over for another photo opportunity. There's my successful daughter. My father's booming voice preceded his arm around my shoulders. He smelled of expensive cigars and the whiskey I'd never seen him be able to afford before. Always knew you'd make us proud by funding a party I knew nothing about. I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. He winked conspiratorially. Your mother handled that part. I just helped pick the menu. Top shelf everything for our Olivia's big day. Nothing but the best for family, right? As he wandered back to his friends, I overheard my Aunt Regina talking to a cousin. Emily's always been the one. No husband or children to spend her money on, so it's only right she helps those of us with real family responsibilities. Each interaction, each discovery of another expense, each backhanded compliment about my career versus family values built a slow-burning rage in my chest, but I maintained my composure, watching and listening and remembering. The logical part of my brain suggested leaving immediately, packing up my dignity, walking out the door, and dealing with the financial theft later. But something deeper, perhaps the child who'd grown up watching her savings disappear into the black hole of parental entitlement, needed to see the full extent of this betrayal. So I stayed, nursing a single glass of champagne while circulating through the crowd. I smiled at distant relatives who praised my generosity, nodded at family friends who asked intrusive questions about my salary, and deflected comments about when I might settle down like my sister Emily. Come help with the gift registry, Mom called from across the yard, waving a decorative notebook embossed with silver baby footprints. The cover price tag still attached revealed it cost $68. I took my assigned seat beside Olivia at the gift table, tasked with recording each present and its giver. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was documenting gifts for a party I'd unknowingly funded, watching people praise my sister for achieving something biological, while my career accomplishment had been reduced to an ATM withdrawal. Aunt Patty handed Olivia an elegantly wrapped package. Just a little something for the nursery, she said, beaming. Nothing compared to Emily's contribution, of course. Olivia opened it to reveal an organic cotton baby blanket. It's beautiful, she gushed, holding it up for everyone to see. I dutifully wrote Aunt Patty organic blanket in the registry book. thinking about the down payment that had vanished, the security and independence I'd been so close to achieving. As gift after gift emerged from their wrappings, my brother-in-law Thomas caught my eye again. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, adjusting his collar as if it had suddenly tightened. "Did you know?" I asked quietly when Olivia was distracted by another present. He hesitated, guilt flashing across his face. "I thought you had agreed to it. Diana said you had offered." "Well, I didn't," I replied, keeping my tone conversational despite the anger bubbling beneath. "They accessed my account without permission." Thomas paled slightly. I told Olivia it seemed too elaborate, but she was so excited. Diana assured us everything was arranged with your blessing. Before I could respond, Mom called for everyone's attention, tapping a spoon against her wine glass. "Before we continue with gifts, I want to take a moment to thank someone very special." She gestured for me to stand. "My daughter Emily has always been career-focused, sometimes at the expense of family time." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. I remained seated, hands clasped tightly in my lap. "But when she heard about baby Emily," Mom continued, "she insisted on making this shower extraordinary. Every beautiful detail you see today was made possible by Emily's special contribution." Applause erupted around me. My sister grabbed my hand, tears in her eyes. "Thank you so much," she whispered. "I had no idea you did all this." I forced another smile, unable to correct the narrative without ruining her day. The responsible, practical part of me that had been managing family, emotions since childhood, couldn't bear to see her happiness shattered. Uncle Walter, already red-faced from too many trips to the open bar, cornered me during the dessert service. "Always knew you'd do right by the family," he slurred, dropping a heavy hand on my shoulder. "Your mother says you're looking into investment properties next. Smart thinking, family compound. Keep everyone close." I extracted myself from his grip. "I'm not sure where she got that idea." "Don't be modest. Diana mentioned you're considering helping with Olivia's nursery renovation too. That's what family is for, right? Supporting each other." Each conversation revealed new plans my parents had made for my money without my knowledge or consent. My cousins Rebecca and Jason approached as I tried to escape to the bathroom, both talking about the family vacation my mother had apparently hinted I might sponsor next summer. My father's golf buddy mentioned the generous contribution I'd agreed to make to their club's scholarship fund. The web of financial commitments spun without my input expanded by the minute. It wasn't just the $12,800 they had already taken. They were promising my future earnings to anyone who would listen. During the gift opening finale, Mom stepped forward again, glass raised high. "And now Emily has one more surprise for the nursery, a complete renovation of the spare room in Olivia. And Thomas's house. Professional designer, custom furniture, the works." The crowd cheered, while I sat frozen in disbelief. Olivia squealed and threw her arms around me. "You're the best sister ever." Over her shoulder, I met my mother's challenging gaze. The message was clear: contradict me now and ruin everything. Hurt your pregnant sister in front of all these people. Be the villain. It was a masterful trap, decades of emotional manipulation, distilled into a single moment. And like countless times before, I chose peace over confrontation. "Anything for my future niece," I managed to say, the words tasting like ash. As dessert was served, I slipped away toward the house, needing a moment alone to process everything. In the hallway, my mother intercepted me, champagne flute still in hand. "Where are you going? We haven't done the final toast yet." "I need some air." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You're not upset about the money, are you? It's just a bonus. You'll get another one next year." "You had no right," I said quietly. "That was my money, my future." "Don't be so dramatic. You can afford it, and family comes first." She straightened my collar in a gesture that felt more possessive than affectionate. "Always remember who supported you before you got all high and mighty with your fancy job." The revisionist history was staggering. They hadn't supported my education. They hadn't helped with my career. They had taken and taken, reframing each extraction as my duty to family. "I need to leave," I said, stepping back from her touch. "Fine. Be selfish." Run back to your empty apartment while the rest of us celebrate real family connections. I didn't respond to the barb. Instead, I gathered my purse and slipped out the front door unnoticed, leaving the celebration of my financial exploitation behind. The moment I closed my car door, the carefully maintained composure crumbled. My hands shook so badly I couldn't insert the key into the ignition. Tears blurred my vision as 6 years of sacrifice and dedication collapsed under the weight of familial entitlement. Breathe, I whispered to myself, using the techniques Dr. Marshall had taught me. Just breathe. After several minutes, I managed to start the car and navigate away from the neighborhood. Instead of heading home, I drove to Crystal Lake Park, a quiet spot where I often went to think. The sun was setting as I parked near the water, casting long shadows across the empty picnic area. Alone in the gathering darkness, I finally allowed myself to feel the full magnitude of the betrayal. Not just the financial theft, which was significant enough, but the complete disregard for my autonomy, my goals, my very personhood. In their eyes, I wasn't Emily the daughter or sister. I was Emily the resource, valued only for what I could provide. A memory surfaced from when I was 16. I'd been saving for months to buy a laptop for school projects. Mom found my hiding place and borrowed 3/4 of my savings for Olivia's dance competition fees. When I protested, Dad delivered the familiar lecture about family priorities and selfishness. I'd ended up using the library computers all year while Olivia got new dance costumes every month. The pattern stretched back as far as I could remember. My first piggy bank mysteriously emptied when Dad needed new golf clubs. My graduation money was reallocated to fix the family car. The student loan refund check that disappeared from my desk drawer was later explained away as household expenses. But this was different. This wasn't $50 or even a few hundred. This was $12,800, my entire bonus, the key to my independence. And they hadn't just taken it. They'd flaunted their theft, celebrating their entitlement in front of 81 witnesses. Worse still was the realization that it wouldn't stop here. The nursery renovation Mom had promised Olivia, the family vacation my cousins expected, the golf club donation, each new commitment made in my name without my consent. My phone vibrated with incoming messages. Mom wondering where I'd gone, Olivia asking if I was feeling well, Dad telling me not to make a scene by disappearing. I silenced the notifications and stared at the darkening lake. The dinner speech Mom had given replayed in my mind, her public toast thanking me for my generosity, the casual way she'd announced I would fund Olivia's nursery renovation, the family members who'd approached me afterward, each adding their expectations to the growing pile. Uncle Walter's slurred comments about a family compound, my father's golf buddy mentioning the promised donation, my cousins discussing vacation plans. Each interaction revealed a network of promises made on my behalf, a future where my earnings belonged to everyone but me. The breaking point wasn't just about today's party or the stolen bonus. It was the recognition that without drastic action, this would be my life forever, an ATM for family demands, expected to fund everyone else's dreams while deferring my own indefinitely. As the last light faded from the sky, clarity emerged from the emotional storm. This wasn't about revenge. It was about survival, about finally establishing the boundaries I'd been trying to set for years, about becoming the protagonist in my own life story rather than a supporting character in theirs. I started the car with new resolve and drove home to my apartment. The modest one-bedroom had always felt like a temporary stopping point on the way to something better. Tonight, it felt like a war room. At my desk, I opened my laptop and began taking inventory of every financial connection between myself and my family, the old joint checking account from college, which I'd kept open with a minimal balance because closing it meant confronting my parents, the emergency credit card I'd added my mother to years ago during a health scare, the automatic transfers I'd set up to help with Olivia's wedding last year, never discontinued despite the event being long past. Each connection represented a boundary I'd failed to establish, a vulnerability I'd left open, and each would now be addressed. Next, I pulled up my bank statements documenting the 15 separate transactions Mom had mentioned. Catering from Giovanni's, $4,600. Decorations and party supplies, $20,900. Photographer and live musician, $1,800. The list went on, each item representing a piece of my stolen future. The total confirmed my fears: $12,800, the exact amount of my bonus extracted over 3 days, through the joint account I'd negligently left open. An account where I was the primary holder, but my parents remained authorized users, a relic from when they claimed to need access for emergencies during my college years. Most disturbing was the timing. The transactions began the very day after my promotion was announced, suggesting they had been planning this appropriation from the moment they heard about my bonus. Not a spontaneous decision, but a calculated extraction. As midnight approached, the outline of a plan formed. I wasn't just going to close accounts and change passwords. I was going to reclaim what was mine and establish consequences that couldn't be ignored or manipulated away. My phone continued vibrating with messages. Mom's tone had shifted from questioning to accusatory, very immature to leave without saying goodbye. Everyone noticed, and it embarrassed us. All Dad's message was more direct. "Your mother is upset. Call her immediately." Olivia likely catching on that something was wrong. "Are you okay? Was it something I said?" I silenced them all and focused on my plan. This wasn't a rash decision born of anger. It was a long overdue reclamation of my financial independence. And unlike their covert operations, mine would be executed with complete transparency. Before bed, I drafted emails to my bank, credit card companies, and financial advisor. I documented the unauthorized transactions with screenshots and timestamps. I prepared to lock down every account, change every password, and sever every financial tie that could be exploited. Tomorrow would be a day of reckoning, not just for the stolen bonus, but for years of financial exploitation disguised as family obligation. As I finally lay down to sleep, a strange calm replaced the earlier turmoil. The decision to act had already lifted a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying for decades. I woke before dawn, my mind clear. Despite the minimal sleep, the apartment was quiet, a stark contrast to yesterday's chaotic party. I made coffee and sat at my desk, ready to execute the plan I'd formulated the night before. First, I logged into all my financial accounts, changing passwords and security questions. The old college joint account showed a remaining balance of $7,216, a pittance compared to what had been extracted. I initiated the process to freeze the account, preventing any further transactions without my personal authorization. Next, I documented evidence of the unauthorized withdrawals, taking screenshots of each transaction and noting the date, time, and vendor. 15 separate charges ranging from a few hundred to several thousand, all made without my knowledge or consent. I organized these into a comprehensive file complete with timestamps and confirmation numbers. At 6:30, I called my bank's 24-hour fraud line. The representative, a woman named Simone, listened carefully as I explained the situation. "I need to be clear," I said, keeping my voice steady. "These were not authorized transactions. I did not give permission for these withdrawals." "I understand," Simone replied. "Since they were authorized users on the account, this becomes a bit complicated. However, given the pattern and amount, we can initiate a fraud investigation." For the next hour, I walked through each transaction, formally disputing all 15 charges and providing the documentation I'd prepared. Simone flagged my account for review by the fraud department and initiated the process to remove my parents as authorized users. "The investigation typically takes 5 to 7 business days," she explained. "In the meantime, we'll place a temporary credit for the disputed amount back into your new secure account." By 8 cars, I had successfully 1. Frozen the compromised joint account. 2. Opened a new account at a different bank. 3. Removed my parents from all financial accounts. 4. Canceled and replaced all credit and debit cards. 5. Disputed the 15 fraudulent transactions. 6. Set up advanced security measures on all accounts. 7. Withdrawn the reimbursed bonus amount to my new secure account. The $12,800 had been returned to my control, at least temporarily, pending the fraud investigation. But I knew this was just the beginning. Financial entanglement with my family went deeper than a single account. While reviewing my financial documents, I'd rediscovered something I'd nearly forgotten. 3 years ago, when my parents faced potential foreclosure on their home, I'd helped them refinance. In the process, my name had been added to the property deed as a co-owner, a measure the bank required given my parents' shaky credit history. At the time, I'd seen it as a formality, never imagining I'd need to leverage that legal status. I called Rachel Simmons, a law school friend who specialized in property law. I need advice on a co-ownership situation, I explained, outlining the circumstances. As a co-owner on the deed, you have equal rights to the property, Rachel confirmed after hearing the details. That includes the right to partition, which would force a sale if you and the other owners can't agree on terms. I don't actually want to sell the house, I clarified. I just need leverage to ensure the money is returned and boundaries are respected going forward. Then a partition thread is perfect, she said. File the initial paperwork, but don't complete the process. It will get their attention without immediately forcing a sale. She agreed to prepare the necessary documents, emphasizing that this was a negotiating tool rather than a nuclear option. Sometimes people need a serious wake-up call before they'll respect boundaries, she added. By mid-morning, my phone was exploding with notifications. The temporary account freeze had triggered alerts to all authorized users, meaning my parents now knew something was happening with their access to my money. Mom's messages grew increasingly frantic. What's wrong with the bank account? Are you having money problems? Call me immediately. This is serious. Dad's took a more threatening tone. Fix whatever you did to the account. Need to pay the remaining vendors today. Your mother is beside herself. This childish behavior stops now. Family responsibility comes first. Always. Olivia sent confused texts asking if everything was okay, saying Mom was crying and Dad was super angry about something to do with banking. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I contacted my HR department to ensure my direct deposit information was updated to the new secure account and met virtually with my financial advisor to review all automatic payments and investments. I'd like to completely isolate my finances, I explained. No joint accounts, no shared access, no opportunities for unauthorized withdrawals. By noon, I received confirmation that the temporary credit had been applied to my new account. The full bonus amount, $2,800, was once again under my control. I immediately transferred it to a high-security savings account designated for my future home down payment. Around 2 a.m., a flurry of calls began, not just from my immediate family, but from aunts, uncles, and family friends. The flying monkeys had been deployed, each calling to check in while subtly pressuring me to fix whatever I'd done. Aunt Regina's voicemail was particularly transparent. Emily, your mother is distraught. Whatever financial disagreement you're having, remember that family comes first. She was only trying to give Olivia the celebration she deserves. Uncle Walter took a different approach. Kid, you've got to undo this bank nonsense. Your father says vendors are calling about bounced checks. Don't embarrass the family like this. I documented each call without returning them, building a record of the coordinated pressure campaign. The partition paperwork from Rachel arrived by email late afternoon, requiring only my signature to initiate. I signed electronically, giving her permission to file if negotiations failed. As evening approached, my sister's tearful call finally broke through my resolve. Unlike the others, Olivia seemed genuinely confused and upset. What's happening? Mom is absolutely falling apart, saying something about the baby shower payments being reversed. Dad says you've frozen their access to some account. They're saying we might have to cancel the nursery plans because of something you did. The guilt in her voice was real, but so was the underlying assumption that I was somehow obligated to fund her nursery renovations, a commitment made without my knowledge or consent. Liv, I can't talk about this right now, I said gently. But I need you to know that Mom and Dad took my entire promotion bonus without asking me, $12,800, all of it spent on yesterday's party without my knowledge or permission. What? No, they said you offered. Mom said it was your idea to throw the shower. It wasn't. I knew nothing about it until I walked into the backyard. They accessed an old account and took everything. Her silence spoke volumes. Finally, she whispered, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I know you didn't know, I assured her. This isn't about you or the baby. It's about boundaries that have been crossed repeatedly for years. After we hung up, I prepared for the next phase. The financial reclamation was underway, but the harder part would be standing firm against the emotional manipulation sure to follow. I called Dr. Marshall and scheduled an emergency session for the following day, knowing I would need support to navigate the family fallout. That evening, as I reviewed the day's actions, another notification appeared. The petition filing had been processed. By morning, my parents would receive legal notice that their co-owner had initiated proceedings that could potentially force the sale of their home. The property leverage wasn't about revenge. It was about establishing consequences serious enough that they couldn't be dismissed or manipulated away. For the first time in my life, I had created a boundary with real teeth. As I prepared for bed, one final text came through from my mother. "We need to talk tomorrow, 3 p.m. at Riverside. Coffee, just you, me, and your father." I replied with a single word. Confirmed. The family reaction was swift and predictable. By morning, I had 17 voicemails, 38 text messages, and 12 emails from various family members. The tone ranged from concerned to cajoling to openly hostile, but the message was consistent. I needed to fix what I'd done and remember my family obligations. My mother's messages grew increasingly desperate as vendors presumably contacted her about the reverse charges. "The caterer is threatening legal action," one text read. "This is humiliating." My father took a different approach, alternating between authoritarian demands and attempts at guilt. "As head of this family, I insist you restore access immediately," followed hours later by, "After all we've sacrificed for you, this is how you repay our love?" I documented each message without responding, building a record of their reactions for both the bank's fraud investigation and my own clarity. It was remarkable how quickly their narrative had shifted from borrowing my money to acting as if I'd committed some grievous offense by reclaiming it. The flying monkeys intensified their campaign. Aunt Patty called to remind me how my parents had always supported my education, conveniently forgetting they hadn't contributed a dime to my college expenses. Uncle Walter suggested I was having a mental health episode and should get help before doing anything else destructive. Even my father's golf buddies somehow got my number, calling to express concern about the family situation. Most surprising was the partition notice reaction. Within hours of the legal documents being delivered, the family communication strategy shifted dramatically. Panic replaced indignation as they realized this wasn't a simple banking error that could be reversed with enough pressure. "What have you done?" My father's all-caps text arrived at 8:17 a.m. "Are you trying to make your mother homeless?" Olivia called shortly after, her voice shaking. "Dad says you're trying to force them to sell the house. Emily, they're saying they could lose everything. Please tell me that's not true." "It's more complicated than that," I explained carefully. "I'm not trying to make anyone homeless. I'm establishing boundaries with real consequences after they took my entire bonus without permission. But using the house? Mom's hysterical, saying you've betrayed the whole family." "The petition filing can be withdrawn at any time," I assured her. "It's leverage for a conversation that's decades overdue, not an eviction notice." The session with Dr. Marshall proved invaluable for maintaining my resolve as the pressure mounted. "What you're experiencing is a predictable response to boundary setting with people who aren't accustomed to limitations," she explained. "The clarity of their reaction actually confirms how necessary these boundaries are." We discussed strategies for the upcoming meeting, focusing on clear communication without judgment. Justify, argue, defend, explain. You don't need to prove the rightness of your position. Dr. Marshall reminded me to stay focused on the specific boundary violations and the changes required going forward. By the time 3:00 p.m. arrived, I felt centered and prepared. I chose a table at Riverside Coffee with good visibility and access to exits, arriving 15 minutes early to settle myself. My parents walked in together at exactly 3:00, both looking simultaneously angry and diminished. Mom had clearly been crying, her makeup slightly smudged despite obvious efforts to present a composed front. Dad wore the stern expression I'd seen countless times during childhood lectures about responsibility and respect. "Emily," Mom began, "before even sitting down, how could you do this to us, to your family?" I gestured to the seats across from me. "Let's all sit down and talk calmly." They exchanged glances before reluctantly taking their seats. Dad immediately launched into his prepared speech. Your actions have been completely inexcusable. Vendors calling our home, our accounts frozen, and now this legal nonsense threatening our home. After everything we've done for you? Rather than engaging with the emotional bait, I placed a folder on the table between us. This contains documentation of every unauthorized transaction made from my account for Olivia's baby shower. 15 separate charges totaling exactly $12,800, the amount of my promotion bonus. We had access to that account, Mom insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. Access for emergencies during college, which I negligently never revoked. Not permission to take my entire bonus without asking. I kept my voice level. The bank's fraud department has already restored the funds while they investigate. Dad's face flushed dark red. We're your parents, not criminals. Taking someone's money without permission is the definition of theft, regardless of relationship, I replied, opening the folder and revealing the printed transaction history. What would you call it? Mom's strategy shifted to tears. We just wanted to do something special for Olivia, for the baby your niece named after you. How could you be so selfish? This isn't about Olivia or the baby. It's about you taking my money without asking, spending all of it without my knowledge, and then publicly committing me to even more financial obligations I never agreed to. The nursery renovation, Dad muttered, having the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Among other things, the family vacation my cousins mentioned, the golf club donation, the family compound Uncle Walter talked about. How many promises did you make with my money? They exchanged another glance, confirming my suspicions. The baby shower was just the beginning of their plans for my income. Now about the house, I continued, moving to the leverage point. As a legal co-owner on the deed, I've initiated partition proceedings. You would make your own parents homeless over a party? Mom's voice rose dramatically, drawing glances from nearby tables. No, I would use my legal rights to ensure this pattern of financial exploitation ends. The partition filing can be withdrawn if we reach an agreement today. Dad leaned forward, his business negotiation face replacing the parental authority mask. What kind of agreement? I outlined my terms clearly. 1. Full acknowledgement that taking my money without permission was wrong. 2. A formal repayment. Plan for the $12,800. 3. A written agreement regarding financial boundaries going forward. 4. Family therapy to address the underlying dynamics. Repayment? Mom looked genuinely shocked. We can't possibly repay that amount. We're on fixed incomes. You found the money to access in the first place, I pointed out, and the terms can be reasonable. Small monthly payments until the debt is resolved. This is ridiculous, Dad sputtered. After everything we've done for you, the sacrifices we've made. I slid a second document across the table. This is a timeline of financial interactions between us going back to my first piggy bank that was emptied for your golf clubs when I was 7. Every loan that was never repaid, every savings account that mysteriously got depleted for family emergencies, every gift that was promised and then redirected. They stared at the extensive document, momentarily silenced by the meticulous record of decades of financial exploitation. I'm not asking for repayment of any of that, I clarified. Just the bonus taken without permission and a commitment that it stops now. The conversation continued for nearly 2 hours, cycling through denial, anger, bargaining, and finally grudging acceptance. By the end, we had a signed agreement detailing 1. A 3-year repayment plan for the full amount. 2. Clear boundaries regarding my financial information and resources. 3. A commitment to 6 family therapy sessions. 4. My agreement to withdraw the partition filing once the first payment was made. As we prepared to leave, Mom attempted one last emotional appeal. I just hope someday you'll understand that family means supporting each other when you have children of your own. That's exactly what I'm doing, I interrupted gently, supporting healthy family relationships by establishing boundaries that protect everyone. Real support isn't enabling financial dependence, it's encouraging independence and respect. They left looking both defeated and thoughtful, an expression I'd never seen on either of their faces before. The battle was won, but the war for healthy family dynamics had just begun. The weeks following our confrontation at Riverside Coffee were predictably difficult. Though my parents had signed the agreement, their emotional acceptance lagged behind. Their written commitment. Mom oscillated between cold silence and tearful accusations about my changed personality. Dad retreated into stoic disappointment. Proval communicating primarily through text messages about practical matters. The family divide expanded as relatives took sides. Some, like Aunt Patty and Uncle Walter, maintained that I had overreacted to a simple misunderstanding. Others, particularly younger cousins who had experienced similar financial expectations, quietly reached out to express support and ask advice about establishing their own boundaries. Olivia's reaction surprised me most. After the initial shock, she called to request a private lunch, just the two of us. I had no idea what they were doing, she said earnestly over sandwiches at our childhood diner. Her pregnant belly barely fit under the table now. Thomas and I assumed you had volunteered to help with the shower. We would never have accepted if we'd known. I believe you, I assured her. This isn't about you or the baby. She twisted her napkin nervously. The thing is, looking back, I can see the pattern now, how they always expected you to contribute more, to be the responsible one. Even when we were kids, her eyes met mine, clear and regretful. I benefited from that dynamic without questioning it. I'm sorry. That conversation marked the beginning of a new relationship with my sister. Not instantly healed, but honest in a way it had never been before. The first therapy session was nearly a disaster. My parents arrived defensive and prepared to present a united front against the ungrateful daughter narrative. The therapist, Dr. Carter, skillfully redirected their attempts to frame the issue as my failure to appreciate family sacrifices. From what I understand, he said calmly, the core issue isn't about gratitude or family loyalty. It's about consent and autonomy regarding financial decisions. Dad scoffed. In real families, members help each other without keeping ledgers. Help. That is, taken without asking isn't help, Dr. Carter replied. It's appropriation, and it damages trust rather than building family bonds. By the third session, small breakthroughs emerged. Mom reluctantly acknowledged that accessing my account without permission might have been presumptuous. Dad admitted that announcing the nursery renovation commitment without consulting me first was possibly an overreach. Baby steps, but movement nonetheless. Meanwhile, I focused on my own healing process. The reclaimed bonus went back into my home down payment fund, but I no longer felt the same urgency about the purchase. Instead, I invested in therapy sessions with Dr. Marshall, exploring the roots of my people-pleasing tendencies and difficulty. Establishing boundaries. You've been the family emotional manager since childhood, she observed during one particularly insightful session, taking responsibility for everyone else's feelings while suppressing your own. That pattern extends beyond finances. She was right. The financial exploitation was just the most tangible manifestation of a deeper dynamic. I had been expected to prioritize family demands above my own needs in every arena, from emotional support to career choices to holiday obligations. 3 months after the confrontation, I signed papers on a modest condo across town. Not the property I'd originally planned to buy, but one that better reflected my evolving priorities. It had a spare bedroom I converted into a home office, a small balcony where I started growing herbs, and most importantly, a security system with no spare keys distributed to family members. The first payment from my parents arrived exactly as scheduled, deposited directly into my account without comment. The amount was small, just $150, but its significance was immeasurable. For perhaps the first time in our relationship, they had respected a boundary I'd established. Olivia gave birth to baby Emily in early fall, a healthy 7lb6 Oz girl with a shock of dark hair and my mother's nose. Despite the lingering family tension, I found myself genuinely moved when I held my niece for the first time. She has your determination, Olivia laughed as the infant gripped my finger with surprising strength. Already knows what she wants. The nursery was modest but cheerful, painted by Thomas and Olivia themselves over a weekend, furnished with a combination of gifts and secondhand items lovingly restored. No professional designer, no custom furniture, but filled with more genuine care than any Instagram perfect showcase could have offered. 6 months after the confrontation, I received an unexpected call from my mother. "I've been doing some thinking," she began, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "And some reading, actually, about this boundary thing." I waited, giving her space to continue without prompting. "I'm not saying I understand everything you've been trying to tell us, but—" "I'm trying." She paused. "Your father and we grew up in families where everyone's resources were communal. Nobody owned anything separately. That seemed normal to us." "I understand that was your experience," I acknowledged. "But it doesn't make it right to take someone's money without asking." "No, it doesn't." Her admission hung in the air between us, fragile but real. "Anyway, I thought maybe you might want to come for dinner next Sunday. Just the immediate family, for real this time." The invitation represented tentative progress, a small step toward a healthier relationship. "I'd like that," I said. "Thank you for asking." The reconciliation process was slow and imperfect. There were setbacks, like when Dad tried to subtly suggest I invest in my cousin Jason's startup, or when Mom hinted that my Christmas gifts should reflect my blessed financial situation. But each time, I calmly restated my boundaries, and gradually the testing of those limits became less frequent. My relationship with money transformed as well. Working with a financial therapist helped me recognize how my family's attitudes had shaped my own approach to finances. I'd been oscillating between extreme frugality, a response to childhood scarcity, and occasional overgenerous spending, attempting to buy the approval I craved. With guidance, I developed a healthier relationship with my resources, one based on conscious choices rather than reactive patterns. I created a giving budget that allowed me to be generous within my means, donating to causes I valued, and occasionally helping family members when I genuinely wanted to, not from obligation or guilt. The most unexpected outcome was how my experience empowered others. After hearing my story, 2 cousins established their own financial boundaries with the extended family. A colleague found the courage to address her husband's controlling financial behavior. My story, shared carefully and with appropriate privacy considerations, became a catalyst for others to examine their own family financial dynamics. 1 year after the baby shower incident, I met with my parents for our now regular monthly coffee. The conversation still had awkward moments, but the hostility had largely dissipated, replaced by a cautious mutual respect. "We've been thinking about downsizing," Dad mentioned casually. "The house is too big for just us now." "That sounds practical," I replied, noting how he was now discussing financial decisions with me rather than making demands or assumptions. "We wanted to know if you'd be willing to help us look at options," Mom added. "Not financially," she clarified quickly, seeing my expression. "Just your advice. You're good with numbers and research." The request for help without financial strings attached represented real progress. "I'd be happy to help you evaluate options," I agreed. Later that evening, sitting on my balcony watching the sunset over my herb garden, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The pain had been real and necessary. The confrontation was unavoidable after decades of unhealthy patterns. But from that difficult breaking point, something new and potentially valuable had emerged. I no longer defined myself as the family ATM or emotional caretaker. I was Emily, whole and complete in myself, connected to my family by choice rather than compulsion or guilt. The boundaries I'd established had not destroyed my family relationships, as I'd feared, but had instead created space for more authentic connections to develop. The $12,800 bonus that had catalyzed the confrontation was long since replaced, invested, in my future, rather than sacrificed to maintain unhealthy family dynamics. But the true value of that money had been in the opportunity it created for growth and change, not in the dollars themselves. Sometimes losing what you thought was yours, I realized, whether money or an idealized version of family harmony, creates space to gain something far more valuable. Authentic relationships built on mutual respect, rather than exploitation or obligation. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family members who didn't respect your financial independence? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to protect their own resources and set healthy limits, even with family. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, real family support means respecting each other's boundaries, not just making withdrawals from each other's accounts.